Don't settle for fakes. My dualtaining is the real deal.
Can you help me with the intro? What's something cool that I could be saying?
Hi, I'm mekklord, and this is my friend, cuchutrain.
That's the intro. That's the intro. Hello everyone, it's mekklord,
No.
and today I'm with the extraordinaire fellow Yugi-tuber cuchutrain. How you doing?
Hi, I'm doing good.
That's it. You're not gonna elaborate.
Yeah, I mean, you caught me in a little bit of the middle of the workday, so. Yep.
So today's event of the day. You cannot see my screen yet. I'm going to share it to you, and you're gonna see that it's something really fun and cool that I thought of all of my own. You ready?
I'm a little worried. You messaged me last week, and you're like, hey, how much do you know about this thing? And I'm like, not much. And you're like, oh, perfect.
Well, cuchutrain, how much do you know about Magic the Gathering cards?
Oh god, I know nothing about Magic.
That's
I
great.
know the rules and none of the meta, which I feel like is probably the important part, huh?
Oh, I guess we'll see. I think I have 13 cards because I wanted to pick 10, but then I couldn't decide between my 10 favorites. So I'm just gonna show you a bunch of cards, and you tell me if they're good or not. And I'm gonna count your points on a paper that I have definitely somewhere. Shit, hold on. And then for every point that you have, I say something nice about you. How's that sound?
For every point for every point I don't get, do I get insulted?
Yeah.
Oh god.
Why don't you play along us, fellow viewers that watch this pre-recorded video? You play in real time. You take a piece of paper and you're like, oh, I was right or wrong, because mekklord said.
If you get more wrong than me, I get to insult you.
Exactly.
I'll go in the comments and I'll look for all of you guys. Post your score.
First card, Lightning Bolt. Do you understand the card as it is presented to you?
Yes, it is a 1 fire mana card that deals 3 damage to any target. And it's also an instant, so you can play it from your hand.
Well, all of the cards in Magic are played from your hand. All of the cards in all of the games are played from your hand.
You can play it from your hand, not on your turn.
Yes, it's basically a infib. It's basically how it works. What do you think about this card?
I'm gonna say yes, it is good, only because, see, the thing is, like, as a Yu-Gi-Oh player, I don't have any idea what cost or resources are. So I'm gonna take a guess that because it's a very cheap cost, and it can just delete something, like, earlier on, or later in the game can be used to help delete something that's a little bit bigger, I'm gonna say that it's good.
Final answer, this is a good one?
Yes.
We'll see. And it turns out that you're absolutely right. Lightning Bolt is in fact one of the best cards of all time. Like you've mentioned, it's good for like removing threats early on, but it's also good in burn decks because you can aim this card at your opponent's face, and since they only have like 20 life, it's basically...
Wait. You can target your opponent with it?
Yeah!
Wait, really? I didn't...
You
That is
can.
not at all what I thought you could do with it.
Burn strategies are actually viable in Magic the Gathering, right? They're like aggro strategies that actually work sometime, and Lightning Bolt is like the best burn card in the game, bar none. In fact, fun fact, this card is the reason why every card game has a limit on the number of maximum cards you can add to your deck. Because one of the first competitive Magic the Gathering decks in the early 90s, when the game just came out, was like 20 mountains, so you could have some red mana to cast lightning bolts, and 40 lightning bolts, and you would just kill your opponent by 10-4. How about this card?
Ironscale Hydra. So it's 3 generic, 2, what do you call it, green?
Yes.
It is a 5/5, and if something would deal damage to it, you can prevent that damage and then put a +1/+1 counter on it. Wait, in Magic, you can choose what blocks what thing, right?
Yes. It's basically when you attack a player in Magic, they decide whether they take the damage or whether they have their creatures to block.
Let's see. Because that effect, I feel like that effect is good, because it puts your opponent into a situation where even if like they have more things than this, it kind of puts them into a bad situation since they don't want to keep attacking into this and keep giving it +1/+1 counters. So my question, I guess, it comes down to whether that cost is going to be worth it. I'm going to just say that it takes 5 mana to put it on the board, and it's got 5/5, so it's probably okay. So I'm going to say this is a good card.
So this is a good card?
I think it's a good card.
Well, fortunately for you, it's not. It's a bad card. It's a card that saw 0 competitive play. The thing that you missed is that it only grows bigger if a creature deals damage to it. So if a spell deals damage to it, it doesn't grow any bigger. And of course you have removal spells like Murder.
Lightning.
That's a real card that exists. That just say destroy a creature and just kills it. And since it's 5 mana, and if your opponent plays like 2 mana worth of removal, that's not good. That's not good for you.
So it's easy to get rid of.
Yeah, it's easier to get rid of
without
having to do combat. Next card.
Yeah, we've got Westgate Regent. This is it's 3 generic, 2 dark. So this is 5 mana to put a 4/4 on the board, but it's got some stuff on it.
It has a lot of text.
It's got flying. So flying is, you can only block it with flying, right?
Yes.
Is ward like a keyword that's common?
Ward is the nerfed version of a keyword that's called X-Proof, which is basically this card can't be targeted by spells or abilities. And Ward is like, this one explains it, when this creature becomes the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, they have to discard a card as an additional cost, or else it doesn't work.
And then on top of that, whenever it deals combat damage to a player, put that many +1/+1 counters on it. Wait. So if it deals 4 damage to you,
yes,
it gains 4?
It gains 4 damage, again, 4 +1/+1 counters, and then it's an 8/8. So next time it hits your opponent for 8, it becomes a 16/16.
Interestingly, though, I feel like you really thought about the order you're giving these to me, huh? Because this one has the same problem of the last one, except it has sort of a way around it, which is the ward. I'm thinking that it's also bad for the sole reason that the player that's targeting it can just discard any card, right? It doesn't have to be like...
Yes.
So I feel like it's going to have the same issue as the last one, except now both you and your opponent go -1 of a card that you may not, both of you guys don't need. So I'm going to say it's bad.
And you'd be correct. This card, despite seeming better than the previous cards, is also bad because, well, it costs 5 mana, and specifically in black, there are so many better cards you'd rather be playing that do so much more. Next card.
Path to Exile. It's instant. 1 white mana, and exile target creature. Its controller may search your library for a basic land card, put that card onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. That sounds really, really good. So that's just... Exile is,
Banish.
like, banish? Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. I'm just gonna say that's good without any context. But now I'm kind of scared, because it seems like a little too... It seems kind of like a trick. So you pay 1 white mana.
Yep.
You pick any creature on the field.
Yep.
Banish it. And then you, or the controller of said creature,
Yes.
then gets to... So whoever controlled that creature gets to search for any land and then put it on the battlefield tab.
Exactly.
I don't know if it's great, but I feel like it's better than it is worse. I don't know if it's great, but I'm gonna say it's good.
It's good, huh?
I think so.
Well, you're right, it is good. The fact that it is a 1 mana instant removal spell that doesn't destroy is just insane. Like, this alone makes it worth the drawback.
Plus, they can't use the land until their next turn, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
It's one of the best removal spells that white, a color that is very lacking in terms of removal, has access to. Next one. This guy. There's a lot of
Go
text.
Helm Smasher. Oh boy. Okay. So this one's got a little bit of a mixed mana cost coming on that. My guess is it's not too hard to put him out. Because my initial guess is that having to run all three of those can make it a little bit tricky, but it seems like if that's
Okay.
how they plan the format, then it's...
I'll tell
putting
you
him out probably
this,
not so hard
there
to do.
are lands that can generate 2 colors of mana and even lands that can generate 3 colors, but only one at a time. So it's like you have
Okay.
a land that is both red and black, it can make red mana or black mana most of the time.
So haste is it can attack the turn it comes in?
Yes.
Like no summoning sickness?
Exactly. Every
Okay.
Magic the Gathering monster is a toon, except this guy. Except guys with
Okay,
haste.
let's see. Zero that attacks each combat if able. So that's that it must attack every turn. You can't
Yes.
just choose not to. Okay.
That's both a gorilla
has-
for you.
I mean, he is called Helm Splasher. He's indestructible as long as it's your turn. Whenever a creature dealt damage by Zurgo, Helm Splasher's turn dies, put a +1/+1. I'm gonna say, purely because of the number 2 that lives on there, he's probably not good. Is the intent for you to just like put him on the board, end game, and then just win the game that turn with him, and then it doesn't matter?
It's definitely a very aggressive card. I don't know if it can win you the game that turn.
If that's the case, then I'm gonna say that it's bad. If it can't win you the game in one turn, I feel like this is pretty easy to get rid of.
Well, you're right. This guy is really bad. really bad. You
why
pointed
is
out
he
correctly that it can't kill you in the turn it's played, and that's because it's missing one very important keyword, trample, which is basically piercing. So as long as you have like a tiny 1/1 to block it, you take no damage. So, and sure, it grows bigger, but you just keep blocking it with like tiny critters you don't care about, and this never gets to you.
You also basically cannot, or it can be pretty much removed on your opponent's turn.
Yes, that's it. Lightning
Whenever.
bolt it takes care of it. Like next card.
Oh god. Okay, they were going for the. Wait. How come it's 7/7/7/7, but the mana's 8?
I don't know.
Griselbrand, so it's 4 dark, 4 generic. What's lifelink?
Lifelink is when this deals damage, you get that much life.
Oh, so it's the suck.
Yes.
Okay, hang on. That effect there, pay 7 life, draw 7 card. Like that's not limited by any mana count. That's just life as the cost, right?
Yes.
So you can theoretically do that as many times you can per turn.
Yes. As long as you have 7 life to pay.
Okay, I'm gonna make a kind of a risky guess here. I'm not exactly a Magic player, and I'm gonna say that just because of the fact that Magic cards have like a real cost, having more of them in your hand isn't necessarily gonna be like crazy broken. Like having 7 more in that way isn't gonna be amazing. Like even if you pull this guy, because you're not gonna pull this guy out like your first turn. So I'm gonna say it's bad.
So it's bad?
Yeah, I'm gonna say it's bad. That's my final answer.
Well,
It's either bad or it's
unfortunately, it's incredibly good. This card is the centerpiece of a combo deck called Reanimator that basically aims to play as quickly as possible a Foolish Burial to get it in a grave, and then one of the many revival spells that you can have access to in black to bring it back, and then draw a bunch of cards, including a bunch of like 0 cost cards that can generate more mana for you to then play a card that gains you life equal to the number of life you've lost this turn, so you can keep doing this again. This card is bonkers. This card is also banned in a format called Commander. I don't know if you've heard of it.
I do know Commander, just because it starts on the board.
It's, yeah, not because it starts on the board, but because you start with 40 life, so like paying 7 life is like nothing, right? It doesn't even matter.
The two places I think I'm running into issues is obviously one, like knowing what you can and can't do, like how you can and cannot cheat things out. But then I think the main one is like what colors can do.
Think of it this way. If a card has a crazy effect, there's probably someone out there that tried to break it and make the most out of it. Lion's Eye Diamond.
Sacrifice Lion's Eye Diamond, discard your hand. Let's see, add 3 mana of any one color to your mana pool, activate this ability only anytime you can cast an instant.
It's basically exactly the same card as Black Lotus, except that you have to discard your hand as an additional cost.
Okay, I guess I have 2 main questions.
Mhm.
So you do have to play this first, and then the actual, like, you have to put it on the field first, and then the hand, or the instant effect is obviously just once it's on the field.
Yes, and you can use it on the turn that you play it, because it's an artifact, and artifacts do not have summon in sickness. All artifacts basically have haste.
And then question 2, which I feel like is even more important. Is there a minimum number of cards that you need in your hand to activate this?
If you have no cards in your hand, you can still... actually, that's a good question. I'd need to look it up. What?
Okay.
I'm gonna look
The fact that you don't know that off the top of your head means that
Shit.
it's not necessary to know.
and don't think that you can. But I'm not sure.
For that reason, then, I'm gonna say it's good. I feel like this is one of those cards that if you have like a thing that just doesn't force you to have a lot of cards in your hand, then it's probably just, you know, easy to use.
That's
So
your final answer?
Yes. Now I'm scared.
And you'd be right. This card is
Hey.
bonkers. Tell a bit
So it
more
kind of
than
just
90%
is Black Lotus, but with like a cost that you can kind of play around.
Yes. There's a very little interesting bit of magic story to this card. This card was designed as a junk version of Black Lotus, but it's very playable for several reasons. First of all, there are some cards that can be cast when they are discarded. And you have the mana to pay for the casting cost now. Second, there are cards that can still like do stuff in the graveyard and stuff. This is a really good card to pitch cards in your hand to the grave. And third, you can, hilariously enough, cast a creature without having the mana to pay for it. And then you crack the Lionized Diamond to get the mana to pay for it. And the creature that you have in your hand, it's not in your hand anymore. It's in this weird limbo between being played and being in your hand. Kind of like a monster that is summoned before, Solemn Judgment resolves. So...
Okay, so does that mean you can theoretically cast creatures with, like, in general, you can just cast creatures without the mana for them?
Yes.
And they just get, like, destroyed immediately?
If you can't pay the mana for it, nothing happens. It just returns to your hand, and it's like, oh well. But most of the time, you wouldn't cast a creature if you don't have the mana for it. Unless some really fucky thing happened that deprived you of mana. Next card! One of the classics known by a lot of people, Platinum Angel.
So I just read the card. Okay. So it's 7. That's 7 mana, just anything.
Yeah,
It's
any
flying,
card.
and its only effect is you can't lose the game, and your opponents can't win the game. It doesn't have any form of protection. I'm gonna say that it is bad. And my reasoning for that is... My only reasoning for saying that it's bad is it doesn't win you the game. It just doesn't lose you the game. And you can get rid of it.
And you'd be right, this card has no protection. It's basically you're paying 7 mana just to probably have it removed for much less. Yeah, it's some of these cards that seem insane when you're a noob, and then you're like, wait, I can just cast a removal spell. Oh.
So wait, but does that mean you can still go to 0 life?
You can
Or
go
like-
to 0 life or below and not lose the game.
Okay, but then the second this gets removed, you just
Yes.
instantly...
Yes.
Okay.
And this next card is kind of the same thing, but not at all.
Okay, let's see why. Oh god, this is getting closer to a Yu-Gi-Oh card. Starting to be some paragraphs on here. So it's 2 dark, 2 black, and then, 2 black, 2 generic. It's a 6/6, okay. So that's pretty good. Let's see, we got flying. Oh, it's got like a mechanic to it. So it's got flying. It's got oil counters. So it comes in with 4 oil counters. You need upkeep, remove an oil counter. So upkeep is
The standby phase, yeah.
Okay. At the beginning of the upkeep, remove an oil counter from Archfiend of Dross, and then if it has no oil counters on it, you lose the game. Whenever a creature an opponent control dies, its controller loses 2 life. That's interesting. Okay, question 1. Are there ways to get more oil counters onto this card?
Yes.
Is there a way for your opponent to easily remove counters from a card?
Yes, also.
Like all of them?
There are cards that
Or
can
is it
remove
just like-
some counters, there are cards that can remove all counters.
Okay, I feel like your opponent's probably not specifically running, like unless this is like tier 0 meta, like I feel like your opponent's probably not going to be running things that'll like attempt to lose you the game by in that way. I'm going to say this is good because you can just get rid of it, right? Like you can just blow it up yourself before it, like before 4 turns goes out, and or put more onto it. And I feel like that stat line's pretty good for 4 mana. So I'm gonna say it's good.
And you are correct.
Hey.
Yeah, correct. This card is a
Why is it
beefy
good?
boy. You deal 6 damage every turn. Who cares if you lose in 4 turns? You're gonna win in 3. And also, and this is very funny and there was no way for you to know that, but there is a very fun combo that you can do with this card where you can... There are cards that allow you to create copies of your creatures and give them to your opponent. So what you do, you create a
God.
copy of this and you give it to your opponent, but the copy has no counters on it. So your opponent just loses the game immediately.
Okay, that's
the silliest combo.
I love hearing about stuff like that. That's so funny. Like that's really, really funny.
Here you go, buddy!
Like, oh, what's this?
This one.
We got Praetor's Council. This is a 3 green and 5 generic. The sorcery, so you play it on your turn. And then we've got return all cards from your graveyard to your hand. Exile Praetor's Council. You have no maximum hand size for the rest of the game. Is there a maximum hand size?
Yeah, I think it's 7 or 8. I think the maximum is 7.
Okay, my guess is it's either bad or there's something that that I don't know about that really, really likes to have a ton of cards in your hand, whether it's just based off the number of cards in your hand or like something involving that. So I'm gonna say that it is bad.
Alright. This one is bad.
It is bad. Okay. Is it bad just because it doesn't really do much, especially not for 8?
It's bad because it's 8 mana and you don't even get to play the cards that you get back for free. So you have to wait a whole other turn. So you're like, well, there are cards that allow you to play cards from your graveyard for much cheaper than 8 mana. Next card.
Iona, Shield of Emeria. We've got 6 generic, 3 white, and it is a flying. As Iona, Shield of Emeria enters the battlefield, choose a color. Your opponents can't cast spells of the chosen color. That sounds like it could be very good, and it's very big, but like you said, there's probably ways to cheat it out. No, I feel like this is probably pretty good regardless of it, because you could just pick the color that your opponent's playing, and even things like removal, like if you know they're playing, what was it, lightning strike, you could just say red, right, and they just can't even use that. I'm gonna say it's good.
You said it's good, but in reality, it's bad.
Oh no. Okay, what's wrong with it?
It costs 9 mana. The very funny thing is that when you cast it and you declare, say, black, your opponent can cast in response a black removal spell.
I see. So it's just like the simple, like, it hasn't
Yeah,
resolved yet. Yeah.
exactly. Although,
Okay.
this card is banned in Commander because you can cheat it out from outside of your deck, basically. And considering that Commander is a format in which you can only play cards of the color of your commander, if you play against a monocolored deck, they can't play at all!
That makes sense.
Only a few more cards to go, starting with this one. I think this is the penultimate one, so there's one or two more after this one.
Stinkweed Imp. I don't like him. He's bad. He's got 1 dark mana, 2 generic. He's got flying. Whenever Stinkweed Imp deals combat damage to creature, destroy that creature. And then it's also got Dredge. Dredge 5? Okay. If you would draw a card instead, you may place that 5 cards on top of your library into your graveyard. If you do, return this card from your graveyard to your hand. Otherwise, draw out. So it's to basically mill 5, cycle this back to your hand.
Yeah.
So it's got 1 attack, which really doesn't matter. You're basically just using this as like a removal tool. I'm gonna say this is bad because your opponent doesn't have to block it, right?
No,
you
they
just
don't.
choose to like let it hit you directly, right?
Well, it's good.
Good.
With a bit of a nuance. The important part of this card is the fact that it basically mills 5 cards for you pretty much every turn.
So the mill is the good part.
It's basically a proto element card. Because like there are also in Magic a lot of like decks that care about the graveyard and stuff. And obviously, if you can set up your graveyard really quickly, you probably win the game very easily. The one thing that this card is going against it is that in recent years and stuff, it's been kind of power creep. There are cards that mill you for more or help you set up your graveyard more easily than this one, but this one was like a competitive staple for graveyard-centric deck for a very long time.
That makes sense. Also, it's every time you would draw a card, right? So it's like, if there's just other cards that make you draw a card, you could just use this guy, like, you could just do this instead.
Yup. It's not once per turn. Nothing in Magic is once per turn. Well,
but it has to be in your graveyard.
It has to be in your graveyard, but you can like pitch it again and then threaten to draw again.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I think this is the last card. It definitely is the longest one in terms of text. Thassa's Oracle.
Thassa's Oracle. We've got 2 blue. We got 2 blue mana. When Thassa's Oracle enters the battlefield, look at top X cards in your library, where X is your devotion to blue. X being your devotion to blue is... What does that entail? It's
okay,
how much
so
blue?
Devotion is the number of, in this case, blue mana symbols that are present in the cost of cards that you control. So if you play Thassa's Oracle with no other blue cards on the field, no other blue creatures or enchantments, you have 2 blue devotion.
Put up to 1 of them on the top of your library and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. If X is greater than or equal to the number of cards in your library, you win the game. Interesting. So,
Permanence is like the stuff that stays on the battlefield, so like creatures.
Okay, those ones that have like
enchantments.
multiple effects that can be costed, so each one of those counts as 1 devotion.
It costs as many blue pips as there are in mana cost. So like this one would be 2 Griselbrand that we saw earlier would be 4 black devotion, stuff like that.
How big are libraries in this game?
60. At minimum 60, and you can go up to... I'm not sure if there's an upper limit. I want to say 80.
You really picked the good one to put last, huh?
Sure did.
I don't know, this is hard. I'll talk you through it. My guess is, I'm trying to think if you can use this to win the game or not. Because if you can use it to win the game relatively consistently, then it's good. And if you can't, then it sucks.
That's the big dilemma, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I guess that's why you put it here, huh? Okay, I guess I'm gonna take not really a guess, but I'm gonna take my my prodding guess, which is that I think it's gonna be bad because I'm assuming by the time you get the amount of devotion to win using this, you're probably already could have just won anyway with the cards that you put on the field.
It's bad, final answer?
Yeah, I'm gonna say it's bad.
And unfortunately, and with a
It's
loss,
good.
it's an extremely good card. People are clamoring for this card to be banned because the only devotion you need for this to be good is 2. You just need to play this, even if you have no other blue permanents on the battlefield, because most of the time when you play a deck centered around this, you will have drawn or milled all the cards of your library. And then you just drop this, you're like, well, I win the game.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
It's,
so you're basically just using this once you run out of cards. Completely.
Exactly, and you make sure to run out of cards. Like you can turbo out some. You can use the dredge guy from earlier to make sure that you mill 5 cards every turn at least, and then you have a revival spell that you use for Tatha's Oracle, and you bring it back. And, oh, you just win.
That makes sense. I totally forgot that Magic games last longer than 3 turns. I think that's a key difference here.
So I forgot. Okay, this one you got right. This one you got wrong. This one you got right. That's 2. Because I counted, but now I stopped counting. This one you got right. This one you got right. This one you got wrong. You got it right. You got it right. You got it right. Got it wrong. No, you got it right.
I got that one. Yeah.
Right, wrong, and wrong. How many points is that?
I think that was.
It's like at least 3.
Goddamn it, I forgot. 3 or 4 wrong.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's 8 out of 13. That's less good. That's a total of 8 points.
I got more than I missed. That's.
Yeah, at the end of the day, that's what really matters. I guess if there's any lesson to think about here is that Magic is a fuckle game where you can do so much unfair shit that it's very funny. And that's basically my closing words on this. Anything else that you'd like to add?
I'm still happy that I got better than 50-50 guessing. By 1 whole point. We take
that's better than most people who actually took the time to play and comment that result as well, probably. Thank you for joining me today. I know you gotta get back to work, so I'm not gonna hold you up for too long. This has been fun. I'm probably gonna do this again. I hope you enjoyed it too. And Archfiend of the Dross is the card that has been anointed as cuchutrain's favorite Magic the Gathering card.
I love this card. It's so funny. Once you described the combo to me, it was just
yeah, it's so silly.
You know what I like. Anyway, thank you for having me on.
It's a pleasure, and I will see you some other time.